I can be really clear with you that there was no UK involvement in this operation, and obviously we're working in relation to British citizens.
I've got 2 daughters, Patrick, and I've never been so scared of the future of Britain. You know, I'm actively trying to see how maybe I can get out. I'm petrified for the future of my kids, especially my 2 girls. I'm pretty confident that if I left this studio now and went and randomly attacked 3 women, abused them, called them prostitutes and other names, that I would be arrested and I would expect to go to prison. Now, the fact that that hasn't happened is worrying to me. Again, I think we're seeing 2-tier policing, 2-tier justice, and we've got a 2-tier Prime Minister in this country and a 2-tier media. The way things are treated.
The British Parliament has just exploded into absolute chaos. Imagine a pressure cooker filled with nitroglycerin, wrapped in a Union Jack and tossed into the middle of Westminster. That is the level of volatility we are witnessing right now. Keir Starmer is facing the most dangerous political moment of his entire career as furious MPs from across the political spectrum are now demanding his head on a platter. The Prime Minister, who promised to fix Britain, has just been accused of committing the ultimate betrayal against 17 million voters who trusted him with their future. What is happening right now inside the corridors of power is so explosive that political experts are saying this could be the beginning of the end for Starmer's government. The establishment does not want you to know the full truth about what is really going on behind those closed doors, but we are going to expose everything. What you are about to hear will fundamentally change how you see British politics forever. The consequences of this moment are so terrifying that even senior Labour MPs are privately admitting they have never seen anything like this before. This is your country, this is your democracy, this is your future. Quick favour, if you are loving this high-energy breakdown of the absolute circus in Westminster, hit that subscribe button right now. Over 92% of viewers haven't actually joined the family yet, and quite frankly, you are missing out on the sharpest political news in the United Kingdom. It is completely free, it takes a second, and it means the world to us here at the British Report. Thanks if you did. Now back to the absolute carnage. The situation inside 10 Downing Street right now is absolutely explosive. Sources close to the Prime Minister reveal that Keir Starmer is in a state of complete fury as accusations of Brexit betrayal sweep through Westminster like wildfire. This is not just another political disagreement between rival parties. This is a full-scale revolt that threatens to bring down an entire government just 18 months after Labour won its historic landslide victory. The timing could not be worse for a leader who is already facing the worst approval ratings of any Prime Minister at this stage in office. Reform UK is now leading Labour in almost every major opinion poll. Nigel Farage is being talked about as a potential future Prime Minister, and now Starmer's own party members are turning against him in ways that nobody predicted would happen this fast. The trigger for this political earthquake was Starmer's controversial decision to push Britain closer to the European Union through a series of deals that critics are calling a complete reversal of everything Brexit was supposed to deliver. Just yesterday, in an interview with the BBC, Starmer openly declared that he wants even closer alignment with the EU single market. He said it is in Britain's national interest to go further with Brussels. These words sent shockwaves through the country because they confirm what millions of Brexit voters have feared all along. The man who once campaigned for a second referendum to overturn Brexit is now systematically dismantling everything that 17 million people voted for in 2016. Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel immediately launched a devastating attack on the Prime Minister. She declared that Labour's Brexit betrayal is becoming clearer by the day. She accused Starmer of pursuing alignment with the single market in a desperate bid to appease his own rebellious backbenchers. She said he is surrendering Britain's freedom to cut regulations and strike independent trade deals. These are not minor criticisms from a backbench politician looking for attention. This is the Conservative Party's top foreign affairs voice declaring open war on Starmer's entire approach to Europe. The message is crystal clear. The opposition believes Starmer is trying to undo the democratic decision of the British people through backdoor bureaucratic manipulation. But wait, it gets even more dramatic. The rebellion isn't just coming from the opposition benches, it is erupting from inside Starmer's own Labour Party. 13 Labour MPs have already voted in favour of proposals that would pave the way for Britain to rejoin the EU customs union. This directly contradicts Labour's own manifesto promises. Senior Labour figures are warning that this internal revolt risks sparking a civil war within the party. Some MPs have openly told journalists that voting for closer EU ties would be electoral suicide in the so-called Red Wall constituencies, where Reform UK is breathing down their necks. These are seats that Labour desperately needs to hold if it wants any chance of surviving the next general election. The specific details of what Starmer has agreed with Brussels are causing massive fury among those who understand the implications. Britain has handed EU fishing boats access to UK waters for the next 12 years until 2038. This was supposed to be temporary access that would expire in 2026. Instead of taking back control of British fishing waters as Brexit promised, Starmer extended EU access for over a decade. The fishing industry is absolutely devastated. Federation leaders have called this a disastrous outcome and accused the Prime Minister of making the whole deal on the backs of fishermen and coastal communities. One furious fisherman from Cornwall told reporters, "This is a total betrayal." He said they were promised their waters back, and now Starmer has rolled over and handed them straight to the French for more than a decade. But the fishing rights betrayal is just the beginning of what critics are calling a complete surrender to Brussels. The deal also includes something called a sanitary and phytosanitary agreement. In plain English, this means Britain has agreed to align its food and agriculture standards with EU regulations. The European Court of Justice will now have jurisdiction over these matters. Think about what this means. British courts will no longer have the final say on food standards affecting British farmers and British consumers. Brussels bureaucrats and European judges will be making decisions that affect what British people eat and how British farmers operate. This is exactly what Brexit was supposed to end, and Starmer has brought it back through the front door while pretending it is something else entirely.
He's laughing in the face of the 17.4 million leavers who voted for Brexit, and that's not going to go down well with the public. You've got voters angry at him over multiple things, the winter fuel payment cuts, the farming tax, the state of the economy, unemployment rising. Then you throw that into the mix as well. He's going to get a pummeling in May, and it could be a big...
The political calculation behind these moves is becoming clearer as more information emerges. Starmer and his advisors apparently believe that by slowly rebuilding ties with Brussels, they can eventually present voters with a done deal that cannot be reversed. They are betting that people will forget what Brexit was supposed to mean. They are gambling that economic arguments will eventually outweigh democratic principles. But this strategy has spectacularly backfired because the British public is not as stupid as Starmer seems to think. People remember what they voted for. They remember being told that Brexit means Brexit. They remember being promised that leaving the EU would mean taking back control of laws, borders and money. And they can see with their own eyes that Starmer is systematically reversing every single one of those promises. The fury among Brexit supporters is now reaching dangerous levels. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has seized on this moment with devastating effectiveness. He is telling voters that Starmer is proving everything he warned about during the Brexit campaign. He is saying that the political establishment never accepted the referendum result and has been plotting to reverse it ever since. Farage's party is now projected to win over 380 seats at the next general election, according to recent polling. Meanwhile, Labour would collapse to just 85 seats, losing over 300 members of parliament. These numbers are absolutely catastrophic for Starmer. They suggest that his Brexit betrayal isn't just angering voters, it is potentially destroying the entire Labour Party as a viable political force. Inside Downing Street, there are now serious discussions about whether Starmer can survive the coming months. Bloomberg has reported that Starmer's rivals within Labour are positioning themselves for a potential leadership challenge. Health Secretary Wes Streeting is being talked about as a potential replacement. Some Labour MPs and aides have privately told journalists that Streeting could miss his window of opportunity if he does not make a move before the local elections in May. The message is clear. Even Starmer's own colleagues do not believe he can lead the party into the next general election. They are already planning for his departure while publicly pretending everything is fine. But what makes this situation even more explosive is the constitutional dimension. Britain operates on an unwritten constitution based on parliamentary sovereignty and democratic conventions. When a Prime Minister makes major policy decisions without consulting Parliament or the electorate, it strikes at the very foundation of how British democracy is supposed to function. MPs are not just angry about the specific Brexit-related issues, they are furious about the precedent this sets for executive power. If a Prime Minister can secretly negotiate away sovereignty without proper parliamentary oversight, what else can be done in secret? This is why MPs from across the political spectrum are demanding accountability.
Starmer says, I don't like or love this country. Let me say this. For 30 years, I've fought for British sovereignty. I fought for us to be a self-governing nation. Why? Because I always believed the best people to govern Britain were the British people themselves. Him? Well, he, of course, didn't like the vote. The greatest result, the biggest democratic mandate ever given in this country, when in 2016 we voted Brexit. Now, he spent the next few years trying to overturn that result. He doesn't believe we should govern ourselves. He's happy, be it Brussels, be it the UN, be it a series of foreign courts. He's happy for us to be governed from there. He does not believe in Britain. He does not believe in the Britain that most of you out there believe in.
The question now is whether Starmer can survive this political firestorm or whether the pressure will become too intense for even his most loyal supporters to bear. With Reform UK surging in the polls, with his own MPs openly rebelling, with the fishing industry calling him a traitor, and with constitutional experts warning about executive overreach, Starmer is facing attacks from every possible direction simultaneously. His government, which looked so dominant just 18 months ago, now appears to be crumbling before our eyes. The local elections in May will be the first major test of whether voters are willing to punish Labour for what critics are calling the greatest political betrayal in modern British history. But here is the question that nobody in Westminster wants to answer openly. If Starmer's own cabinet cannot agree on who should replace him, and if Labour MPs are too divided to mount a unified challenge, then what happens next? Does Starmer simply limp on towards electoral disaster while Reform UK grows stronger every single day? Or does someone find the courage to end this nightmare before it is too late? The answer to that question will determine the future of British politics for a generation. And right now, nobody seems to know what that answer will be. The scale of rebellion inside the Labour Party right now is something Westminster has never witnessed before. This isn't just a handful of troublemakers looking for media attention. More than 130 Labour MPs have now signalled their opposition to various aspects of Starmer's agenda. Over 120 MPs signed a reasoned amendment trying to block the government's welfare reform bill. 42 MPs wrote directly to the Prime Minister, warning that his policies are impossible to support. 13 Labour MPs have openly voted against their own government on the customs union question. These numbers represent more than a quarter of the entire parliamentary Labour Party in open revolt against their leader. The Brexit betrayal is what has truly set the political world on fire. When Starmer announced that he is pursuing a youth mobility scheme with the European Union, Brexit supporters immediately recognised what this really means. The government claims this is not freedom of movement. They say it is just a scheme for young people to travel and work in Europe. But critics have exposed the terrifying truth behind these innocent-sounding words. Analysis has revealed that up to 64 million EU residents would potentially become eligible to move to the United Kingdom under this scheme. That is not a typo. 64 million people from across the European Union, aged between 18 and 30, could theoretically gain the right to live and work in Britain. Brussels has been pushing for no caps on this arrangement, no limits on how many people can come, no restrictions on how long they can stay. This is freedom of movement through the back door, and everyone knows it. Reform UK MP Lee Anderson has called this out in the most direct terms possible. He declared that letting in hundreds of thousands more EU migrants would directly defy the wishes of the British people. He reminded everyone that the country voted for Brexit and won, despite the Conservatives' failure to deliver properly. He accused the Labour government of selling out Brexit by leaning back on the EU. These are not wild accusations. This is a sitting member of Parliament stating publicly that the government is betraying the democratic will of the people. But here is where things get truly explosive. Dominic Cummings, the mastermind behind the original Brexit victory, has just blown the lid off what he calls an establishment plot to destroy Nigel Farage and prevent Reform UK from ever winning power. Speaking on a major political podcast, Cummings issued a chilling warning that sent shockwaves through Westminster. He revealed that Whitehall officials and people close to Starmer are planning to use any means necessary to stop Farage. Cummings claimed they will leak medical records, leak tax records, bug phones and leak private conversations. They will break the law if that is what it takes to prevent Reform from winning.
Hear, He says no one's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to him? The winter field allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The two-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials? U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. I think that's going to be the next one, Mr. Speaker. Week after week, these poor people sitting behind him have to defend the indefensible, only for him to U-turn a few days later. Mr. Speaker, one of his cabinet ministers told a journalist that what's happening at the moment is extraordinarily bad. Another said we've gone through a catastrophic series of missteps. Yet another minister said, we are so unpopular at the moment, I've come to the conclusion it's worth rolling the dice on a new leader. They're right, aren't they?
Think about what Cummings is saying here. This is the man who ran the Vote Leave campaign. He knows exactly how the establishment operates because he was inside it. He is warning the British public that democratic processes mean nothing to these people. They view the Brexit referendum as a disaster that should never have been allowed to happen. Their solution is to strike early and strike hard against anyone who threatens their grip on power. Cummings specifically said their goal is to smash Farage and make sure he does not win by fair means or foul. Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef responded to these revelations with just 2 chilling words: it's already begun. Former Starmer aide Paul Ovenden has made similar claims about civil servants hijacking government and pursuing their own agenda regardless of what voters want. The picture emerging is one of a permanent ruling class that will do anything to maintain control. The timing of these revelations could not be more damaging for Starmer. His government is already facing attacks from every direction. The fishing industry is furious about the 12-year surrender. Immigration hawks are terrified about the youth mobility scheme opening the floodgates. And now his own MPs are in open revolt over welfare cuts that will push 250,000 people into poverty, according to the government's own impact assessment. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has been publicly contradicting the Prime Minister on EU policy. He said a customs union would have enormous economic benefits just days before Starmer ruled it out. Political insiders see this as a direct leadership challenge. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has also emerged as a potential challenger. He publicly criticised the government's welfare reforms as the wrong choice. He accused ministers of targeting the most vulnerable people in society. For a mayor who was once a senior cabinet minister to openly attack his own party's government suggests the rebellion goes all the way to the top. The knives are out for Starmer and everyone in Westminster knows it. The Conservative Party is trying to capitalise on this chaos, but they have their own credibility problems. Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel has been hammering Starmer on the Brexit betrayal, but the Conservatives themselves failed to deliver proper Brexit during their 14 years in power. Voters remember that. And that is why Reform UK is now leading in almost every major opinion poll. The polling numbers tell a story of complete political realignment. Reform UK is projected to win over 380 seats. Labour would collapse to 85. The Conservatives would fall to around 70. Nigel Farage would become Prime Minister with a commanding majority. Nigel Farage has set his sights on the May 2026 local elections as the springboard to power. He is planning to deploy millions of pounds targeting voters who did not participate in the last election. His strategy is to mobilise the disengaged and the disillusioned, the people who have given up on politics because they feel ignored by the establishment. These are the voters who could reshape British politics forever. Meanwhile, Starmer is gambling that he can survive long enough to turn things around. He warned that removing him would create utter chaos and hand power to Farage. He is essentially telling his own MPs that they have no choice but to stick with him. The European Union is watching all of this with considerable interest and some alarm. EU officials secured everything they wanted from Starmer: fishing access, ECJ jurisdiction, and a youth mobility scheme. But if Starmer falls and reform takes power, all of these gains could be reversed overnight. Farage has made clear he would tear up any deal that betrays Brexit. The EU's gamble on Starmer delivering alignment could backfire spectacularly. The situation Britain faces right now is unlike anything in modern political history. A Prime Minister who promised integrity is fighting for his survival amid accusations of deception. The solution to this crisis starts with the British people demanding accountability. Every citizen who voted for Brexit needs to understand what is being done in their name. They need to contact their Member of Parliament and demand answers about why the government is surrendering fishing rights and food standards. They need to challenge the schemes that open the door to millions of migrants. This is basic democratic accountability. Supporting political movements that genuinely represent the will of the people is the second step. Reform UK has emerged as the only major party that consistently defends the Brexit mandate. If Starmer's Brexit betrayal is allowed to succeed, it will send a message that referendum results do not matter. It will tell the establishment that they can ignore the people whenever they disagree with democratic outcomes. Democracy only works when citizens actively defend it, and right now British democracy needs defending more than at any point in living memory. The next few months will determine whether Brexit lives or dies. Keir Starmer thought he could betray Brexit without consequences. He was wrong. The people are watching, the people are angry, and the people will have their say. The reckoning is coming. Thank you for watching. Good day.